Welcome to Cosmic Conversations, the podcast where spirituality meets real life. I'm Siobhan, your host, aka the Cosmic Coach, and this is a space where we're going to explore the layers of what make us truly who we are. There's going to be a series of solo episodes along with some incredible guests, a space where we can truly discuss the universe within us all. For today's episode, we're going to be talking about love, you guys. We're going to talk about love, self-love, love languages. We're going to get into it. Love languages are important, not only when it comes to a partner or the relationships that are, closest to us. It also is important when it comes to yourself and showing yourself love, which is also something that I have learned on my own journey. So yeah, if you want to hear some more about that, then please stick around. I always think of, that girl, is it Maddie Grace Jepsen? I definitely got her name wrong. I'm gonna have to look that up now. Yeah, it's Maddie Grace Jepsen, and she goes, love you. She likes to take her tongue out. I love that. I text that to people sometimes, like LUVYEW, love you. But anyways, today we're here to talk about love, you guys. One of the highest frequencies and vibrations that we can tap into is love. And guess what? You have it within you, and you can tap into it. And I suppose in terms of my own journey with self-love, God, it's an emotional, but to be honest, are we always on a journey of self-love? Are we? Oh, there's a question now. There's something to think about. I don't know. I feel like self-love for me growing up when I was a teenager and kind of in my early 20s was if you loved yourself, you were cocky. Oh, she loves herself. Oh, did you see her? She loves herself. Oh, your man, he loves himself, doesn't he? And it was just one of those things, if you loved yourself, you were arrogant, you were cocky, you were almost embarrassing. And so that was kind of my perception with self-love, ironically. And I suppose it might have been in my consciousness that it was important to like myself. But in terms of actually really unapologetically loving myself, I was going to say that didn't happen until 2023. But, there's still some days where your girl is but I'm in a much better place now. And I like the person that I am. And I know my heart, you know what I mean? And so I know it's so cheesy when everyone says it's a journey, and I'm probably going to say that word a million times in all these episodes. It's a journey, you guys, and that is cheesy, but honestly, it is a journey. It's not a destination. It's not just okay, I now love myself. Let's tick that box. Now I'm going to work on my happiness. No, it changes every single day. Life happens. Shit happens. We got to get through shit. We go through, breakups. We go through body image. Maybe our health is affected. We go through physical, emotional, mental stress. Life goes on, and our ability, I suppose, to sustain a level of self-love, it fluctuates. And so sometimes self-love can look different each day, which is something that I also want to get into in this episode. But what kind of sparked my shift in my self-love journey was the one and only Louise Hay. For those of you who know her, you're probably sitting there nodding your head same girl. But Louise Hay for me is someone who I honestly, guys, this is going to sound crazy. I honestly feel like she's one of my spirit guides. Watch someone clip this now and be like, oh my God, this crazy girl thinks that Louise Hay is her spirit guide. Sure, look, I own it. Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life, really changed so much for me. And it was a time where I actually decided to look at myself and be like, I want to love you. I actually want to look at you. And even if it's not love, I just want to like you. And that book brought me through that process. Now, ironically, you think reading that book, you do some nice exercises, you do some nice rituals, and bada bing, bada boom, you are in love with yourself. No, you meet your shadow self. You go through the resistance. You look at the beliefs that are maybe holding you back, the memories that are holding you back, the story that we tell ourselves. And so often it is the story that we tell ourselves about ourselves that is holding us back. And one thing that Louise Hay talks about as well is a victim mindset. Tricky territory, guys, because, some people might get triggered by this, but a lot of people are walking around a victim. Everything is always happening to them, others always doing things to them, nothing ever works out for me, blah, blah, blah. And to be honest, like, I was probably one of those people. Like, a lot of the time, I'm like, oh, like, why does this have to happen to me? Or I definitely told myself a story that was not one of love. And so that can be a big thing for us. And then, when we don't love ourselves and we aren't trying to have, we're not trying to sustain a healthy relationship with ourselves, we self-sabotage. We do things that someone who loves himself wouldn't do. We gossip about people. We're bitchy. We, start arguments. We're reactive. Maybe we have substance abuse. We betray people in relationships, whatever it might be. We're just not a good person to be around. And some of those behaviors were things that I was displaying in my own life. What happens then? We create shame. We create guilt. Some of the hardest emotions to hold in the human body are shame and guilt. And self-criticism. And it's a vicious cycle then. The thought creates the feeling, creates the action, creates more thoughts, creates more feelings, creates more actions. And so we live in this kind of cycle of our story where we just kind of keep projecting out into our world from a place of lack and fear. And that's all that comes back to us. And we can go around and tell ourselves, I probably did tell myself, yeah, I love myself, of course I do. Like, I put my makeup on, whatever. I didn't, I did not love myself. I was going on Instagram. I was one of those girls. Guys, I'm going to put my hands up. I was one of those girls be like, you're one. Do you see her? Oh my God. I was a gossiper. I was very much in gossiping when I was younger. I was projecting a lot of pain into the world. And it's only when I actually decided to pick up the mirror and look at myself and say, what do I not like about myself? What part of me is triggered here? What part of me wants to be seen? That I'm projecting into and out to and onto the world. And so that book helped me do that. And that is still a process I'm going through today. Like, there's still things that come up for me and I'm like, oh, there's something there. There's a wound there, and I got to dig in and I got to dig deep, and then I got to feel it to heal it, to release it. And then I got to replace it with what? Say it back to me, self-love. And so, yeah, that was honestly an incredible journey that I went on with Louise Hay. And I also loved, a lot of Louise Hay's teachings may not be for everyone, but Louise Hay believes that our ability to love ourselves is connected to everything. Our relationships, our career, even our body and our health. And it's fascinating. At the back of the book, she has basically a list of all these diagnoses that she'll give you. So at the back of the book, it could have something like burns. Like if you get a burn on your finger or you burn yourself cooking. Louise Hay will have a reason for that. And the reason will be because of anger. You have suppressed anger and that's why you burned yourself. And you're probably listening to me like, here, Siobhan, I dropped the bleeding pot. I didn't mean to burn myself. But for me, this way of thinking helps me because it helps me to take accountability. I can stop and be like, how did my actions and my thoughts lead me up into this point? And then I'll realize, actually, I've been in a bleeding rager all day because I got a letter in the door that pissed me off. And now I'm going around, stomping and roaring and shouting and, dropped the pot and burnt myself. Anger. I was angry. That wouldn't have happened. You know what I mean? And so, that book really helped me a lot. It helped me with accountability. It helped me with my shadow work and really set me on this journey. And I was also, at the time of this book, I was a new mother. So I, had a very small baby boy who is not so small anymore, but he's still my baby. He's a toddler now, but I had him late 2022. And it hurts me to say I didn't go on my healing journey, or I suppose I didn't go on my self-love journey. I was very much on a healing journey because I was in counselling. But I didn't go on my self-love journey till the start of 2023. Actually mid-2023. And, as a mother, I think one of the greatest gifts we can give our children is to show them us having a healthy relationship with ourselves, to show them us loving ourselves. Because ultimately, when you become a mother, you look at that baby and you are like, you are the most pure, perfect and pure thing that I've ever seen in my whole life. You are just love itself. And someone once looked at us like that. And so you want them to grow up having that mentality. of course, they're going to go through phases where they're not going to be very nice to themselves. They're going to be teenagers. They're going to go through school. They're probably, hopefully not, but they might experience bullying, whatever it is. But we want to kind of represent that good relationship with yourself, to trust yourself. And so as a mom, it really resonated with me on my journey. I was like, okay, this is really important to me, not only for myself, but also because of what I want to display to my son. Um, and so yeah, that was great. Guys, one of the things I was told when I actually read this book, I think I could have been still reading it. And I was doing the practices, I was doing my affirmations, I was doing the exercises. I also got the exercise workbook that you can get for it as well. And one thing that people kept saying to me at that time of my life was, "You're glowing. Siobhan, you're glowing. Oh my God, you look amazing. You're glowing. You look amazing. What are you doing? You're glowing." Ironically, I was still going through a lot in that year. A lot of stuff in my personal life was going on. Just so much hardship at that time. And so I guess you could say, going on that self-love journey was kind of a saving grace. It was something for me to put my energy into. But it just was like, what? Like, I'm glowing? Really? Like, but I was. And I'm not sitting here to say, like, oh, guys, I was glowing. Like, I was. And it was because I was really actually starting to love myself. And yeah, I just remember that kind of stick with me when I was going through that whole journey of everyone saying that. And I was like, wow. Um, and I loved doing the mirror work. If anyone's familiar with the mirror work, I actually work with clients a lot, and I think mirror work is a really, really big part. I think nearly every client I've worked with, I've done mirror work with. Um, can you look at yourself in the mirror and say, "I love you"? If you're listening to this right now, if you're in your room, if there's a mirror, if you're in the car and there's a rear view mirror, or even like reflection somewhere, can you look at yourself and be like, "Hi, I love you. I really, really love you"? Because I couldn't. Like, if I tried to do that, I'd actually burst out laughing, or I'd just be like, "Oh my, this is stupid. Like, this is not doing anything." I had to keep doing it and keep doing it until I got emotional. I literally would start to cry, like, "Oh my God, I've never said this to myself before." And like, we go around our whole life waiting for other people to tell us that they love us, and we never say it to ourselves. And that's actually kind of sad, because the one person that's always going to be in our life from the day we were born to the day we pass on is ourself. And so it's so important that we're able to look at ourselves and say, "I love you. You can be a source of love for me because I am you and you are me." Um, and yeah, I just thought that was really special with that kind of whole journey, and stood out to me. And of course, then as you are working on your self love, inner child healing, big, big topic, I suppose, online, everywhere. And I'm so happy it is, because inner child healing is so important. Inner child healing only kind of came into my awareness, I'd say, when I started counseling. And by the way, I've been in and out of counseling since I was like 16, but kind of actively only since I'm like, oh God, I want to say like maybe 22 or 23. Um, but yeah, anyways, I've been in counseling, and that's where the inner child healing got introduced to me, because I would be talking about something. She'd ask me, when is the first, what's the first memory you have of this emotion? And then it would bring me back to my childhood, and then I'd connect in with it and work through it, unpack it. And so inner child healing is a big thing in the Louise Hay book. And it's the same with self-love. Going back and giving your inner child self-love. So often our inner child is screaming out at us, is terrified, is scared, is lonely, and is wondering what the hell's going on. And if something happens to us, when we're younger, it doesn't have to be only in our childhood. It could be a teenager. If something happens to us, that stays with us. That's that trauma, that experience, that loss stays with us. And then we just kind of try to carry on. We try to kind of pile everything up on top of that. We go to work. We continue going out. We just move on with life without really processing it. And then all of a sudden, we're like 27, and, something from my fear of rejection is being triggered when I was 11, and someone told me, "No, you can't play with us." You know what I mean? Like, so much of our inner child healing is connected to wounds that we just never looked at. And so this journey of self-love has helped me to build a better relationship with my inner child, to be like, "Okay, I'm gonna look after you. I'm gonna look out for you, and I'm gonna love you. And I'm here now, and I'm here to look after you." I suppose it's just been a nice reminder that, nobody's coming to save us. which is probably the bad news, but there is good news. And the good news is you get to save yourself. And ultimately, that's the greatest gift because you don't need anyone else to save you. You really only need you guys, really and truly. Um, and yeah, we have the ability to get through whatever it is that life throws at us, no matter how painful or raw or, suffocating it might feel. You can get through that. And yeah, so another thing it helps me with is my connection to my body and being pregnant. I absolutely loved being pregnant. I'm sorry, I'm one of those annoying girls. I loved being pregnant. I know a lot of women who have such a difficult time with pregnancy. They get that hyperemesis and they get gestational diabetes, so many different things. I did actually have sciatica towards the end, but to be honest, I loved being pregnant every single second of it. And I suppose when I did get pregnant, it was very much like I wanted it. I knew, I felt it was coming. I felt he was a boy, even when we didn't find out. We never found out, but yeah, I loved it. And I suppose I loved my body. Like when I was pregnant, I loved my body. And it's funny because I don't think that's the common theme. I think a lot of people maybe look at their body when they're pregnant and they're like, God, my body's changing. Like, yeah, I definitely had that. Like, oh my God, my body's changing. But I didn't put this external pressure onto it because I was like, I'm pregnant. Like, I'm growing a baby right now. This baby is mine. And like, oh my God, like, I loved it. However, when I gave birth, I feel like I got it. Then it all came in. Then I was like, oh, whoa. Because I was looking at myself and I was like, okay, I remember I was like 10 days postpartum and I was like, do I start work? Like, when am I going to lose weight? Like, shall I start working out? Like 10 days postpartum, girls, like I had stitches and I was like, do I need to start working now? Like, when am I going to lose like all this belly? I was also breastfeeding. So, you need to eat more. You need to drink so much water. And I put a lot of pressure on myself. I'm only back from a holiday a few weeks ago and I wasn't the nicest to myself at times. I was definitely having moments of like poor body image and being like, oh God, I'm going to the pool and everyone's looking at me. And, I just had to go back to, okay, my tools. What are my tools? My affirmations and, putting my hands on my body. And, so often, like if you like to put your body lotion on, say in the evening or you're getting out of your shower and you're putting your creams or maybe even putting your tan on, you're doing it like, and maybe you're listening to something, maybe you're listening to this podcast and you're not really like mindfully doing it. And a practice that I brought in is like actually as I'm doing it being like, oh, thank you, body. Like I'm so grateful to you. Like I woke up today, like you've kept me healthy, like you've carried me through every single day in my life. I love you. And I remember actually during this kind of journey that I'm on, I remember like putting my hands on my belly because look, I wanted to lose a little bit of weight off my belly. I'm going to be real. And I still do. And I remember putting my hands on my belly because, Louise Hay says that extra fat comes from fear. So if we're in a state of fear, we're going to put on weight. Your cortisol is spiked. Your body's going to think there's danger and it's going to put on the weight to protect you. And so I remember putting my hands on my belly many times in the evening and being like, hi, like, I love you. You're beautiful. And I know that, you're putting on some weight because, you want to protect me, but it's okay. I'm safe. You don't need to protect me. And you're probably listening to me like, what is she talking about? She's talking to her belly. Guys, the mind and body are one. Okay. It is all one. It is all connected. And so I did that. And I remember like it sue me, but it worked. Okay. It actually worked. Now I was mindlessly, or not mindlessly, I was mindfully trying to eat better and I was exercising too. But you gotta have all. You can't just have the exercise or the eating. You gotta have the self-love, guys, because when you do it from a place of love and not from a place of hatred for your body, that's when it sticks. And so yeah, that really helps me move that on my journey. And then I suppose another thing with self-love, you guys, this one is hard. This one is hard. But forgiveness. We gotta forgive. We have to forgive. And sometimes the hardest person to forgive, who could it be? Yourself. That shame, that guilt that we all hold. Forgiveness was definitely a big part of my journey, forgiving people in my life. And, something coming to mind, was forgiving parents. Our parents are only doing the best they can, it's their first time living too. And that was a big thing, in my story, was learning to have forgiveness for myself, for maybe not dealing with things, or, speaking of people, or just addressing things in a way that maybe wasn't out of a place of love and out of a place of fear. And, forgiveness for the people who can't stay with us on this journey, because that is one thing that you need to take note of, guys. If and when you are going on a journey of learning to love yourself, self-development, not everyone can come with you. And that was a hard pill for me to swallow. Because another thing that happened to me when I was going on this really big self-love journey was I lost friends. I literally, as I'm speaking about this now, I can feel my heart chakra like, whoo, she's in the chat. But I lost friends. I lost relationships around me. And I was like, what's going on? Like, what, and not to get too into it, because, I have so much respect still for everyone and love for everyone. And I know that we're all just on our own paths and we're all on our own journeys. And that's just how it is. Sometimes we can't all be together on that because our paths are taking us in different ways. And no one path is better or above the other. It's all just our life, our journey. And so that was a big thing for me, was like learning to have forgiveness, that like, okay, certain people have to walk away and I can forgive myself for letting that go. And so forgiveness sets you free. Forgiveness, even if it's hard for you to think about, I can never forgive someone. How could I forgive that situation? Forgiveness is for you. It sets you free, and it's not for the other person. But when you do it from a place of love and you really forgive to set yourself free, you're sending love to that situation or scenario or person. And, law of attraction tells us what you put out there, you get back. It is flowing out of me today, guys, 22 minutes in. But I suppose, what is self-love? You're probably thinking, right, Siobhan, you've talked about your journey. You've talked about everything. What is self-love? We know love is an emotion, a feeling, a vibration, a frequency. We've all felt love at some point. Whether that was being shared with your mother, or, you sharing it with your child, or with a pet or a partner or a friend, or even it could be just a way of being, a love of life. Love is a pure state of being, and I believe that, when we're born, every human being is born pure and unconditional love. And life happens and society impacts us and we get influenced and pulled in different directions, and we fall out of love with ourselves and we fall in and out of love with other people. But ultimately, I feel that self-love is a state of being, and a state of being that fluctuates because it's a journey. And so often, people will say, how do I love myself? Like, where do I start? And that was my thing. Like, okay, how do I love myself? Like, what do I like have a skincare routine? Do I put on a face mask and have a bath? Do I read a book? Do I get my hair done? Do I do an affirmation? Do I love myself now? It's like, no. It's all of that and more. But I think self-love is present if you're asking yourself, how do I love myself? So if you're sitting there like, how do I learn to love myself? Or where do I start? Well, then you do. Because I feel that the presence and the awareness of wanting to love yourself is in itself a presence of love, because you wouldn't be asking yourself that question if you didn't. And of course, there's always things that we can address and work on and, build on. But if you're wanting to love yourself, then you are loving yourself. And, I feel self-love is simply choosing to show up for yourself, showing up for that inner child. And a big part of it is allowing yourself to be your authentic self. As we go through different parts of us, whether it's your physical body, learning to love certain features about yourself, learning to love your laugh or certain quirks, learning to love your past, what happened to you, your upbringing, where you grew up, or the things that you did, the places that you went, even if it doesn't feel like it, learning and expressing love for it because it's made you who you are today, the things that you've gone through, the people that you've met. That's all part of the self-love process. And, choosing that is powerful. And for me, self-love is a foundation for so many important other aspects, like self-compassion. Can you love yourself? Okay, maybe. But can you have compassion for yourself on the days where you are having a bad day? Maybe you were reactive with your partner. Maybe you did have a shit day at work and you confronted someone in maybe an aggressive tone or just a nasty tone. Or can you love yourself when You have road rage and you're shouting at someone in traffic. Can you love yourself when you gossip and you slip into an old way or an old habit? Because we have to have compassion with ourselves to sustain self-love. And that looks like good days and bad days. We need to be able, we can't expect ourselves to just fall in love with ourselves and be an incredible, wonderful, happy, go lucky person all the time. No, it's about loving yourself through all of your seasons and all of your phases and all of the things that life presents you with. That is self love. So, self love, is taking accountability. It is showing up for yourself, forgiving yourself, reparenting yourself, being compassionate with yourself, and accepting yourself. And when you do that, you allow yourself to show up authentically as you are, not as the friends around you, not as the societal programming, not as anything, your upbringing, who your parents believe or want you to be, or whatever your circumstance is, you, authentically you. And, that's where you see, the likes of people that are dressing, in a way that maybe isn't in right now, but they're expressing themselves and that's what makes them feel good and they're being authentic. Or someone is jumping around and dancing online in a video and you're looking at it thinking, oh my God, what are they doing? They're expressing themselves, they're being authentic. And I guarantee you that person loves himself more than the person that's watching that video being like, oh my God, you're one. Do you see her? She's playing mad. Like, that person is more in love with themselves because they're being authentic and they're being free. And another thing I suppose to know here is if something someone does triggers a response in you that's like either judgmental um, or reactive, that is a mirror. What part of you are you judging in yourself? What part of you is trapped and caged in your own mind that you wouldn't feel free enough to do that? That was another indicator to me, guys, on my journey that I really had to look at. Why was I judging certain people for doing certain things, And I suppose a big thing for myself was even coming online and talking on my stories. Like, I remember it would be a thing that be like, oh my God, you see her? Like, she thinks she's a blogger, like, she thinks she's an influencer or whatever. I suppose they were called bloggers back in the day. That was like a programming and I suppose something that I had in myself and I would judge people. And then I was like, wait a damn minute, like, I need to look at this. And once I did and I started to love myself, I realized, no, I'm just showing up as me. And those who want to stick around, stick around. Those who this triggers or just don't agree with what I'm saying, like, love and light. I wish you all the best. And so it's important to look at what's triggering us and what we're judging. What are you judging in others? Because I guarantee you that's where you got to pour some love into as well. So I suppose in the topic of self-love, how do we give our self-love? And I wanted to talk about love languages. So if anyone is in a relationship, you're probably aware of love languages. It's something that we talk about, I suppose, with a partner. Love languages are how we want to receive love and how we naturally give love. Love languages are influenced by our upbringing. So depending on what kind of upbringing you had, depending on the attachment style that your parents had as well, that's kind of going to influence your love language. And I suppose I'm going to run through this 5 different love languages. And I believe the love languages are by Gary Chapman. It could be wrong, but I'll leave it in the show notes somewhere that you can read more about them. This is just going to be a quick overview. But the love languages are words of affirmation, acts of service, quality time, receiving gifts, and physical touch. So I'm going to go through them all. Words of affirmation, kind of self-explanatory. You are someone who likes to be told that I love you so much. You're beautiful. You are wonderful. You are so great. You're the apple of my eye. You're the only one for me. That's a words of affirmation vibe. I am a words of affirmation girly. Okay. Not only do I love affirmations, I am a words of affirmation girly when it comes to my love languages. And I feel that was very much influenced by my upbringing. My parents would have been quite vocal about, I love you so much. I remember when I was a kid, ironically, I don't do it as much now. Oh, I remember when I was a kid, I would be walking out the door and I'd be like, bye, I love you. Like, bye, mom, bye, dad, love you. Hanging up on the phone, so to this day, I'll be like, bye, I love you. And so, yeah, words of affirmation was kind of in my life. And so that's something that I expect from a partner. But how do I give that to myself? So And want to try to flip these love languages not only to a partner but to yourself. Words of affirmation really help me. So, do my affirmation cards, which I actually have my own deck of affirmation cards, by the way, guys. If anyone wants to buy some, if you are a words of affirmation person, it might be nice for you to have. I pull a card each day. You guys know I pull a card each week on the podcast, and say it to myself. And it's not just like saying it to yourself and putting a little plaster on and everything's better. You're saying it to yourself. And when you say that word of affirmation to yourself, it goes into your subconscious. And then it's going to go down and it's going to trickle into the parts of your brain that do not believe in this. So if you are saying to yourself, I am open to receiving the abundance of the world, for example, parts of your brain that are in lack mindset, maybe negative experiences around finances or money, maybe negative, upbringing with money, whatever it might be, you're all going to be like, hang on a minute. We do not believe this. We're not listening to you, girl. This is not true. So when we say words of affirmation, they're going into our subconscious. That's where the magic happens, because it's going to bring up the resistance, the parts of us that do not believe in that affirmation, do not agree with it. We do not claim this. You got to work through it. You have to work through that resistance and be like, no, I am choosing to believe this now. Your brain's clever. It's going to try to trick you, and it's going to try to show you little things to be like, well, actually, no, look, you just got this bill come in the door and, you don't have enough in your bank balance to pay it. So, we don't have abundance flowing to us. That's your brain. It's a fear response. Fear is there to protect us, guys. It is there to keep us alive. It's there to keep us safe. So it is a fear response. It's going to bring up those beliefs, but it's up to you to work through and be like, no, I am choosing to believe that I'm worthy of attracting abundance. I'm attracting abundance to me now. I claim it. I call it. Working through that. You're not only getting into your subconscious, guys, and rewiring your brain, you're raising your vibration, okay? Everything in this world has a vibrational frequency. The phone that you're holding, the car that you're driving, whether it's a table or a wall or a house that you're in right now, every single object holds a vibrational frequency. So the frequency that you put out, you're going to attract. Like attracts like. So allowing that affirmation to go in, like, no, I attract abundance. How do you know? Maybe you get a refund on something that you weren't expecting, or maybe you get a tax back, or maybe you find money in a jacket that you haven't worn in months and all of a sudden there's 20 quid in it. Like, you have to just believe in this. And if you're listening and being like, oh God, Siobhan, I'm still not with you. If you've tried the latter, if you have tried telling yourself, no, abundance does not flow to you like that. Money is just, you have to work for it and that's it. Well, if it hasn't worked for you, why not try this? Why not give it a go and see how it goes for you? And I guarantee you, it will work. And that's not only to do with abundance mindset, that is to do with all types of affirmations. And there are so many that we can work with. Journaling and saying mantras to yourself can also be a nice way if you are a words of affirmation person. For me, I find journaling a really good way to express myself, to really check in with certain parts of myself. If I am feeling triggered, if there's a trigger response, if I'm judging something, if I'm reactive to something, I'm going to sit and journal. And a way of writing is to get the words out on the page. What do I want to express? And then I can look at it and work through it. So journaling as well can be really useful for anyone who identifies that love language. I'm saying identifies, but resonates is probably a better word. Acts of service. Acts of service are the type of people who are going to do it for you. You need that done? I'll do it. You need dinner? I'll cook it for you. You need your desk organized? Let me organize it for you. Let me make the bed for you. Let me run a bath for you. These are the acts of service people. And I am so grateful I have an acts of service man in my life. He likes to do all of those things, carrying the bags, just looking after me and doing all these little things around the house to help me and show me that I am loved. And acts of service is a beautiful way to show love and express love. However, for example, if I'm like words of affirmation and my partner's acts of service, sometimes it can create like a disconnect, like in terms of receiving love, because you can be like, oh, do you love me? Do you love me? Like, do you still love me? Like, I'm going to put my hands up. I'm going to embarrass myself. I'm one of those girls. Do you still love me? Of course, your partner loves you, but as an acts of service person, I'm like, what do you mean? I made the bed and I went down and I got you this and I got your pajamas ready and blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, no, but do you love me? And so sometimes when we have like conflicting love languages, it can bring up like maybe confrontation or a bit of conflict in a relationship. And if there's not a good level of communication there, like thankfully I'm at a place where I'm like, I'm needing some validation. I'm needing some reassurance today. Can you tell me how wonderful I am? And likewise, I'll be like, okay, so my way of expressing love is words of affirmation and physical touch. Physical touch is my other one, guys. By the way, everyone has all five love languages, but it's just some of us kind of like prioritize different ones. So my tops would probably be words of affirmation, physical touch. And so, it's about, okay, I naturally give words of affirmation, physical touch, because that's just what comes natural to me. But then I'd be like, okay, acts of service. So, I'm gonna do this for them. I'm gonna get this ready for him, or whatever, help him get his lunch ready for work or whatever it might be. Giving that language to the person in your life, if you do have a person in your life, it doesn't have to be a romantic partner. It could be a sibling, a mom or dad, a friend. Giving that to them is such a wonderful thing to do if you're able to become aware of it. But I suppose the purpose of this is for you to become aware of your own and how you can give it to yourself. So acts of service. How can you give acts of service to yourself? Prioritize future you. If you want to go to the gym in the morning, get your clothes ready. Set your water bottle out. If you are, maybe working, have a busy week, maybe prep your meals, go to the shop, get some nice snacks that you like, prep everything for yourself, an act of service. Maybe it's, setting up your bed with your book or your Kindle or whatever it might be, making yourself a cup of tea or decluttering your space, like clearing out your space. Oh my God, I think we can all agree. I mean, I'm not someone who likes to really clean and organize. One of my good friends she's a clean girl, okay? She loves to clean. And that's her like way of feeling, good. And then sometimes I'm like, okay, maybe I should clean. And then I declutter my space and I'm like, oh my God, this actually feels really good. So that is an act of service to myself. I have just cleaned my environment, my space. I'm telling myself I am worthy of a clean and wholesome and safe space. So that could be another way that you could show an act of service to yourself. Quality time is another one. Oh, I love this one as well. I'm reading them all and I'm like, oh, maybe this is my love language. Like I said, we have all of them. But quality time is obviously in terms of a relationship, it's being with your partner, not being on your phones, actually talking to them. Maybe it's like playing a board game or going for a walk or just sitting and having the chats, just sitting out a cup of tea and have the chats. How was your day? That's quality time. And I suppose, how can we give quality time to ourselves? So one of my favorite ways is, honestly, as a mom, quality time is like, hallelujah. Like, just give me 5 minutes, please. Act of service, gonna make myself a cup of tea and I'm gonna have quality time. 2 in 1. 2 birds, 1 stone. Oh God, I actually don't like that saying because I ain't hitting no birds with no stone. But anyways, you get what I'm saying. Quality time can be meditation, going for a walk on your own, but like not just putting your earphones in and going for a walk, like actually going for a walk and spending time with yourself. It could be reading. I feel like reading is quality time with myself because it's me in my brain reading the words and picturing the story. And I suppose that can be done, if you're in bed with your partner. But it's kind of nice to actually set that time aside to be like, what am I going to do for me this week? And that's really important as well. If you're on a journey of self-love, being able to be on your own. Can you spend time on your own? Do you need to be with people all the time? Because if you do, maybe that's information for you to look at. And so being able to spend time on your own, whatever that might be, I suppose you could say exercise and working out is quality time too, but you're not really with yourself because you're thinking of the moves, right? You're thinking of the exercise, but just spending time in solace. Like, can you sit with yourself in nature or in your car with nothing playing and just be? Because quality time is so important to help us get to know ourselves. But as always, I would recommend meditation. Meditation is a really good way to be with yourself. Solo dates too. I remember solo dates kind of became a big thing. I can't even remember. It was like after lockdown, I feel like everything, or maybe during lockdown, everyone was like solo dates, solo dates. Solo dates is a really nice thing to do as well. You're spending quality time with yourself. Receiving gifts. Look, I think we all love to get a good gift, guys. Especially when someone knows you, okay? There's nothing like getting a gift that screams, I got this for you because I saw this and I thought of you. You know what I mean? Like, that to me is a love language in itself. But receiving gifts, so, buying yourself flowers. I have only recently gotten into this in the last few years. Like, so often we wait for like our partner to buy us flowers or an occasion or our birthday or something to come up so someone can get us flowers. Like, buy yourself flowers. Like, you are worthy of having these beautiful flowers that you want to look at. What is your favorite flower? Go and buy them for yourself. You know, buying yourself a coffee or treating yourself to your nails, like giving yourself a little gift. I think it's actually a beautiful way to love ourselves. And without, of course, look, I was an impulse spender. I'm not going to say I still sometimes am. I'm not. I'm actually really much better now. But I was definitely someone who was an impulse spender because I wanted that instant gratification of like parcel on the way or just bought this new shiny thing. Like, oh my God. Now looking back, I know because it was a dopamine thing, but also like a gratification thing. Lack of self-love. And so now when I do it out of place of love for myself, I'm like, wow, like I'm so, grateful for these flowers. Aren't they beautiful? Like, those flowers are so beautiful. Did you see the flowers I bought? They're just beautiful. Talking to my flowers, being grateful for my flowers that I bought for myself. And maybe it's buying myself my favorite chocolate bar or new jammies. Oh my God, new jammies is like the best gift ever. And doing it from a place of like, I'm getting this for you because you deserve it. It's just a really nice thing that you can do. So yeah, give yourself a gift if your love language is receiving gifts. Next one is physical touch. So physical touch, kind of self-explanatory again. If you have a partner, holding hands, sitting close to them, putting your arm around them, kissing them, cuddling them, and all that other jazz. Physical touch is one of the 5 love languages. So how can we show physical touch to ourselves? Again, we are flipping these onto our self guides. How can you show yourself physical touch? I think I mentioned earlier in this podcast, about when I was really working with my relationship with my body. And spending time like putting my body creams on and being like, I love you, like you are beautiful. That is a really nice thing to do. Like, have a bath, like sit in the water. How does it feel on your skin? Like, what can you smell? What is it? A nice bath bomb or some nice bath oils that you've used? Getting out of the bath, having a nice ritual, putting on a new body lotion or body oil, whatever that might be. Spending time with your body and giving your body nice, loving, gentle physical touch. And especially, so often, like some people can become disconnected from their bodies. And I feel that is a different podcast, which I may be talking about soon, is kind of body image. But we can become disconnected to our bodies with throughout life with certain things that may happen to us. And so this may be more difficult for some people, but it also could be very healing. Feeling safe in your body, feeling like your body is your home, because it is your home. It is your vessel, it's your vehicle. And so showing yourself that love, skincare rituals could be a really nice way to do it as well. I know somatic healing can be really powerful. I'm not speaking from experience because I never actually delved into it. However, stay tuned because it's something that I feel is calling me lately, guys. That and Kundalini, I'm like, okay, something needs to be explored here. But again, as a Pilates girl, showing your body love, like, okay, exercise is a privilege. This is my vehicle and I deserve to exercise. Like, my body deserves to feel strong. I deserve to move. I have limbs. I have a body that works and that can walk and talk and carry things, carry my child, embrace my child. So, embrace my partner, embrace my loved ones. So I need to show my body love. So physical touch is a beautiful, beautiful way for us to show ourselves that love. And again, like I said, there's many ways that we can do it. Even brushing your hair, girls, like brushing your hair, they say hair holds memories, talking to your hair, brushing it mindfully, looking in the mirror at yourself. Like, look in the mirror at yourself and look at, your nose. Be like, oh, I have my dad's nose. I have my mom's mouth. Oh, my eyebrows. Like, yeah, that's so amazing. Like, my eyebrows stop the sweat from going into my eyes. My mouth allows me to talk. My ears can hear everything. My cute little ears. Like, just looking at your body in a loving way. I know it doesn't always come easy, but we can try. And that's the point of this podcast too, is just being willing to try any and all of these things, guys. It's important. But yeah, that is the 5 love languages. And I just wanted to talk about that today because, like I said, I feel like it is important to know with partners, and maybe it is something that you become more aware about with your partner. What is my love language? What is my partner's? And what can we communicate here? but how can you give them to yourself? And I suppose that leads us on to, giving love then in general. You can't pour from an empty cup. And I love that saying because it's so true. Now, I will say, I don't actually agree with the phrase they're saying that you have to love yourself in order to love others, because I do feel like at certain points in my life, I didn't really love myself, but I was still able to love other people. What I do feel though, is maybe what those people are trying to say when they say that is that you can still love other people even if you don't love yourself. You just maybe don't show it in the best way. So you can feel it, but maybe you don't really have the tools to express or show it because you haven't got a lot of that within. And so learning to love yourself, or being willing to learn yourself, is such a beautiful way to show love to those around us. And again, I think I can speak, testament to this. I love to tell the people that I love them. I love to tell them, and that is because I think it's so important. And especially, we go through life and realize how precious life is. And again, this is probably not going to relate to everyone, but as a mother, I'm like, oh my God, that love that I feel for that person. Like, I just feel like my heart is walking around on the earth, and I'm like, I just love him so much. Being able to express that love, because I can give it to myself and I can feed it to myself, and now I can share it with others. And that's a beautiful thing. And it also helps us, not only with relationships and those around us, but in our life. We're giving out a more loving energy, guys. Okay, we're going to put love into our work. We're going to bring love into our office. We're going to bring love into the gym, or, the shopping centre, wherever we're going, because we're going to start to emit that frequency out. People are going to smile at you. People are going to come up to you and start talking to you out of nowhere. It happens. I'm not just saying this, like, it happens to me all the time. And I'm not trying to sound like I'm cocky, because look, maybe this is a limiting belief coming up, but I'm not. But I genuinely feel like, and on certain days when I am actually being more my self-love, people will literally come up to me and start talking to me, or ask me about something, or, oh, I love your shoes, or whatever it is, because I'm giving that vibration off. So they're going to feel like, ooh, like, we can all read energy, we can all feel energy, whether we know it or not. Our subconscious is doing it and our body is feeling it. So we're going to be drawn to that. And so you're able to give that out into the world, have more loving reactions or responses to people, I should say, not even reactions, because when we are working on loving ourselves, we learn how to respond to things. If, let's just say, someone in traffic, again, having road rage, and they're like, blah, 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 roaring, shouting, giving you the finger, it's like, oh my God, like, I'm able to just laugh it off, and I'm like, God, they must be having a really bad day. Like, that's not about me. Like, that's about them. I was definitely a road ragey person. But, it's learning to love yourself. It gives you that perspective to be able to look beyond things. Even if it's something to do with, you get the wrong meal at a restaurant, or you get the wrong room that you booked in a hotel. You don't have to go and be like, I booked this and blah, 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 or I ordered this and blah, blah, blah. It's like, hey, actually X, Y, and Z. And you'll actually notice when you're coming from a place of love, people are going to receive that, and they're going to give it back to you in a softer way. And even if they don't, you're going to know that it's about them and not about you, because they're just projecting. We're all just projecting, guys. Everyone in this room, we're all just projecting. So remembering that as well. Final thoughts on self-love. I really hope that you guys can take something away from this episode. I know it's kind of a long one, but if it's something with your own self-love journey, please let me know. Like, how has it been for you? Maybe there's something that you want to add to this, something that has helped you on your journey. I would love to hear it. Remembering to reflect on your own love language and do one act of self-love today. Okay, maybe it's an affirmation, maybe it's some mirror work, maybe it's the physical touch with your body, having a dance party and listening to your favorite song and letting your inner child express some happiness. Our inner child loves to express themselves, by the way, guys. It could be coloring as well. Doing a meditation, asking yourself, how can I love myself more today, is a really, really good place to start. Next, we have our Cosmic Confession segment of this episode. And for today's episode, this lovely listener wrote in and shared something with us which said, I feel like I have chosen the wrong path. I feel like I'm struggling with imposter syndrome, and I'm questioning if I'm good enough or if I have the power that other people have in a similar area to me. Honestly, like, thank you so much for sending that in, first of all. I know it's probably quite a vulnerable place to be in. And it's definitely something that I can relate to in terms of imposter syndrome and comparing yourself to other people in your chosen area and just feeling like you're not good enough for this path. So yeah, I see you. You're not alone with this. And ironically, I think more people struggle with this than we actually maybe care to realise, or actually just do realise in general. But I mean, the first thing I would say to this listener is imposter syndrome. I mean, I think if there's a presence of imposter syndrome, in a way, it kind of shows that you care. You care to be good enough. And obviously, it shows that you are stretching into a new territory. It's something that you probably haven't done before. It's all new for you, and you're challenging yourself and you're growing, and growth happens when we're not in our comfort zone. And that's when the real magic happens too, because we grow when we stretch ourselves, when we challenge ourselves and we move out of that comfort zone. And of course, then fear kicks in, imposter syndrome kicks in, and it's like, well, I'm not good enough to be out here, so I need to go back into my comfort zone. So first of all, I would say the only people that ever feel like imposters are the ones that are trying something brave. So honour yourself for that, and I commend you for that, because you are following your heart and your path. And if this wasn't your path, if this wasn't your calling, if you weren't good enough for this path, you wouldn't be on it. There wouldn't be something that's pulling you towards this or calling you towards it, whatever it might be. And so, don't doubt that for a second, that this isn't what you're meant to be doing. And you'll know yourself, you'll feel it in your physical body, your emotional, your spiritual, your mental. It will be pulling you towards it, and everything in your life will be pointing you in the direction of going onto this path. And that can be scary. That can feel like an imposter. That can be uncomfortable, uncertain. We're not sure how we're going to get there. And I think a massive thing that we do as well is we look at people who are like miles ahead of us and where we want to be. But what we don't realise is those people are probably looking miles ahead of them and where they want to be. So we can always kind of put that like external pressure onto ourselves to be where someone else is. And that's the beauty of this life, though, is that we're never going to be where someone else is, because we're all unique and we're all different. And I know it's cheesy, but it's true. And you will have your own unique flair to whatever it is that you are doing, because it's so true what the quote says: no one is you, and that is your power. And I think really harnessing in on that and being like, no one is me, I am unique. You have all of your own unique experiences, your personality, your little quirks and your little flares that make you. So that is something that you cannot compare to other people, because how can you compare two things that are completely different? You can't. So comparison is a thief of joy, and remember that comparing yourself to someone else's journey is just going to set you up for failure. But reminding yourself of how far you've come, maybe it's your qualifications, whatever it is that you have studied or done to get to where you're at, that's another nice little thing to remind yourself of when you are having those days of imposter syndrome, to be like, hang on a second, I have studied for this, I have worked hard for this, I have this certificate or this diploma. Is another kind of like realistic standards to measure yourself against, and you're like, no, I can do this. And yeah, you're not behind. You are in divine timing, and remember, there is no rush. And it's true what they say, it's like planting a seed. If you plant the seed, it's in darkness for a while, and then it grows and it sprouts, and you have to wait for that seed. You have to water that seed, and that is you on this journey. And just enjoying that process of growth, and becoming this person that you are on this path. And I would say to this person too, call in your guides, call in the angels, your spirit team, or if it's something, of a spiritual practice that might be different, it might be working with crystals or something else, using all of those little tools to really help ground you into your own being and remembering your own power. I think is so important, because I think we fall into that trap of comparison and like, am I good enough for this path? Will I ever be at the level of others? A really nice thing to do is ground yourself back into your own power. So yeah, remembering to call in your guides and working with whatever form of healing or spirituality or grounding that works best for you, calling back your power. And remembering that this time that you're in right now is actually a really sacred time for you, because you're growing, you're becoming, you're learning, and you're at the beginning stages. And I guarantee you in a couple of months or a year or a few years, you're going to look back on this and be like, wow, I should have never doubted myself, because it was meant to be this way all along. Remembering that if things feel like they're in the way of your path, then they actually are your path, and having trust and faith in the divine plan and divine timing. Thank you so much for sending in that cosmic confession. Again, like I said, I think it's a very relatable one for everyone, no matter what it is that we're doing or where we are at life. We often fall into those traps of imposter syndrome. So I'm sending you lots of love and wishing you all the best on your path. And please keep me posted. For this next segment, then we have affirmation of the week. You guys know I love affirmations. I just really believe in the power of affirmations and getting into our subconscious, by repetition, by saying them in the mirror. I think that they're so powerful and so beneficial. And so that's why I like to include it in each podcast. And for this week, I have pulled an affirmation card from my own deck, by the way. And this week's one, you couldn't write it because I think it fits in so well with this week's podcast, and it's actually inspired by a wonderful woman who I mentioned in this podcast called Louise Hay. And it is, I am perfect, whole and complete. And I love this one. I often work with this affirmation with clients. I think it's such a lovely affirmation to think about when we just bring our attention back to ourselves and knowing I am perfect, whole and complete. No part of you is missing. No part of you is incomplete. No part of you is like empty or just in need of something else, in need of someone else's validation or someone else's love or someone else's reassurance, because you are perfect, whole and complete as you are. And again, I think it ties in really nicely to this week's cosmic confession too. It might be a nice affirmation for that person that wrote in or anyone else struggling with imposter syndrome, because reminding yourself you're perfect, whole and complete at every phase of your journey, whether you're just starting out, whether you're new at your career or your path that you've decided to go on. You've made such a brave step. So reminding yourself you are perfect, whole and complete at every stage of your journey is so, so, so important. So for everyone listening, I would love for you to take this affirmation into your week. See how it sits with you, see how it feels. Some affirmations will flow more than others, and that's okay. Some will feel more natural and some won't. If there's resistance, it's information for you. If it flows naturally, it's also information for you. But you're perfect, whole and complete. And I like this one because, I often think there is no such thing as perfection, but then on the other hand, we're all perfect as we are. And again, that's a beautiful thing to think about. Thank you for tuning into Cosmic Conversations. If you enjoyed this episode, then please let me know. Maybe consider leaving a 5-star review or a comment on what you thought. I'd love to hear suggestions and feedback on any topics you'd like me to explore or unpack, or maybe a guest that you'd like me to have on so I can pick their brain. If you have a cosmic confession or a dilemma that you'd like me to explore next week, then please send it my way on Instagram at Cosmic Conversations Pod, or email thecosmiccoach.ie@gmail.com. Thank you and see you next week.